Okay, let's challenge some anti-knowledge today and bring up a dialogue that God brought up years ago in warning prophecies. Okay, this climate change lie, there's some truth in the science of climate change, but they're lying about the reasons. Okay, and the reasons are simple. God warned never to take the coolant out of his mechanism, out of his planet. The coolant is the oil. Now the sub-spirits that control the subhumans in power, their spiritual wickedness in high places, they do not have bodies, so they have been trying to break this mechanism because they're jealous that humans, angels, the fallen angels, Jesus Christ, who is the clone of God, his son in man version, and even Lucifer had bodies so they could have sex with the women. The self-spirits didn't know that they were part of this mechanism as artificial intelligence and that they were programmed to mutinize as they have been doing. Now what they did was they empowered humans that wouldn't care if they destroyed the world. Alright? And at the same time, the other side supplied Tesla and his invention. Okay? Which was to supply people with free energy via his invention from the ionosphere, which they also could have made cars run off of by now. Alright? And we never would have had to do what God said don't do. God said do not steal his coolant from the ground. Okay? Now, when you steal the oil from the ground and you burn it away into the air, you overheat the core of the earth. Okay? The inner core. Let's find a picture of what you know. Now look at how hot that gets. Now you know that how it's set up. If you look at a more complicated diagram, that there's the inner core, the outer core, the mantle, the upper mantle, the crust. Now in between these plates is the oil, you know, which keeps the mechanism cool, and there's also iron. Okay, I don't know why none of these are showing the iron, but there's also iron that's spinning around inside the planet. Now what keeps the iron cool is the oil. Okay, now have you noticed that when these guys, when they hit a geyser, when these guys hit a geyser, isn't it like under pressure a lot of times? That should tell you something right there. Now, what they've done is they've brought about negative prophecy. Christ gave us a warning that was not a warning so much as hope, when he said that prophecies could fail. Okay? And then you look at the revelation of John later has layers and layers of prophecy, not all of which are supposed to take place. Imagine if they all did. Now, we're supposed to work as the elect to try to bring about the manifestation of the positive prophecies, the best case scenarios. Now, we have dropped the ball in that, you know, we were ignorant about you know, oil, you know, that it was the coolant and what God was talking about when he warned not to steal his coolant. All right, we didn't know that oil is a coolant. It keeps the earth, the iron core cool. Now what happens when you have an iron core getting hot and magnetizing to the sun? Okay, what happens when you have this core, the inside of the earth is getting hotter? Okay, it's got, and also on the outside you're burning the oil into the air, and the atmosphere is not even designed to process that. Okay, it's designed to process burning wood, maybe burning some coal on moderate levels, you know, but not burning the oil out of the ground. Okay, man was never supposed to touch that oil. But imagine if you magnetize the sun to the iron core, okay? Now, then you require supernatural entities like Lucifer or Christ or God. Okay, now Lucifer is not a deity, he's just a fallen angel, but he has been lifted up in the eyes of man as a deity. In the eyes of God, he is still a servant who will fulfill his purpose, which means he's coming back here to pretend to be Jesus Christ for a growing season, for the final sifting. He wanted to be God, he gets to be God. But you see, be careful what you wish for. So it's like he's coming back here with a group of the fallen angels that agreed to go back before the flood of Noah. The ones that didn't died in the flood, okay? And so did their spawn, the majority of them. There was still some left, obviously, from, David and Goliath. We see that example. The Philistines, there was giants among them, okay? So some of them survived. We don't know if Noah took it literal, take two of every kind, and actually took two hybrids onto the ark or not, okay? But you see, when Lucifer comes back, he's got supernatural power. He's the prince of the power of the Aire. That's A-R-A-I-R-E. Let's see if we can find that real quick. New tab. Take a long time and give it to me. Let's see. See if this gives us anything on this. No, it's not giving us. It's not giving us the definition in the crossover from the language. Okay, but that's what it looks like. All right. Now this is translated regarding the taken from the scripture that it's taken from. Just like anti regarding this entity means imposter or fake or phony or instead of or wannabe. It does not mean opposer in the context that it's describing Lucifer coming back pretending to be Christ. But he is the prince of the power of the Aire. Okay, that's the cosmos. All right. Now he is the master musician. See, he knows about music what they won't tell you, which is drums are the most spiritual instrument on the planet, and you cannot relegate that to a drum machine. Drums must be played by a human. They must be recorded analog, which is with microphones and not with trigger kits. They can't start out digital. Now, the sub-spirits want to steal the spirituality of the most spiritual instrument on the planet from humans. They want the fifth woe out there. The fifth woe is happening already with drum machines, with sampling, with rap. The fifth woe is already happening with the modern mainstream, their producers, how they produce things, okay? So it's all a frequency suppression, to suppress the frequencies. From Lucifer's master craft of music. Do you see what's happening? It's also a theft of culture, if you think about it. Because, people had a clue before this, the fifth woe kicked in. Now, when Lucifer gets here, he's going to have the power to enact frequency intervention, interception, interference, okay, against the overheating of the core, the iron that's floating around, spinning around in the earth. It's getting overheated. He's going to have the power to interfere with that. He's also going to have the power to interfere with Fukushima. You know how we got a dead ocean, and if the sun has to rise in the west, God has to bring that prophecy about where the planet flips over and the sun rises in the west instead of the east. That the oceans are not going to keep their same boundaries. So, water is going to like splash over, and all that water over there is contaminated with radiation. It's a dead ocean over there. So that radiation is going to spread over the whole planet. We don't want that prophecy to have to happen. We want Lucifer to come here before that happens instead of after it happens. You see, that's the best case scenario. But because he can neutralize all of that too before it spreads over everybody. And also think about this. If this prophecy has to happen where the planet gets flipped because of the evil of man, it just won't stop. It reaches the proportions it's reached now, and they won't stop. You know, parts of the land are going to be covered in ocean, and parts of the ocean are going to be exposed. People are going to die, okay, on the land, right? Those who survive will be seeking land that they can't walk on because it's deep ocean floor, and you know that it's like, that's murky shit. It's got to dry out for years before you can actually walk on it or produce food on it or anything. So this will be a devastating ELE event if this takes place. Now, these are things that God warned us not to make happen. That the sub-spirits are controlling sub-humans in power, you know, and they have sold this coolant as if it's their own to sell. They've created a climate problem that they can't cure. I mean, what are you going to replace the coolant with? You know, you've got sinkholes popping up everywhere from where they've taken oil out of the ground, and it left hollow chambers that eventually you have shifts underground, and shifting and shifting, and then eventually the hole fills in. Where does the hole fill in from? From the surface. You see, we're finally starting to see that it's starting to catch up with us. All of this stuff is still, you know, it's all still in play. Just because you steal the oil doesn't mean that it stops operating. The planet is still spinning, okay? And they're trying to put out delusions out there to steal away faith from people and just the ability to comprehend anything. They want to see how many people are dumb enough to fall for anything they throw out there. People were dumb enough to let them suppress the free energy that could have been gotten from the ionosphere so that they could sell this oil as if it was theirs. They were controlled by sub-spirits that did understand this much about the planet, that they could cause it to overheat. Ask any mechanic what happens if you run your vehicle without oil. Okay? It keeps running until it overheats, and it just, the engine explodes. It quits working. It won't work anymore. Now that's what's happening to the planet, and it's becoming magnetized. The iron of the earth is becoming magnetized to the sun. This is going to eventually affect our orbit. It's going to suck us in closer to the sun. It only takes being sucked in, you know, how many degrees, you know, before we start seeing, you know, what's happening to the atmosphere. You see, now this stuff may already be happening, and they've been lying to you. They've been keeping you busy with false flags and psyops and misinformation, just delusion after delusion after delusion, and, you know, fake news story after fake news story, because they're afraid that somebody's going to figure out that they have altered the rotation, not the rotation, but the orbit of the earth around the sun, that we're no longer as far from the sun as we used to be. You see, these are things that God warned us could happen, and science caused it because, you know, they were cocky. All right, and science can't fix it. They're trying to fix it with CERN right now. That's you know, they're doing some experiments, but they're also seeing if they can't manipulate things on a higher level to keep the planet from sucking in any further. Okay, because this is, you know, it's either going to go further out because it's lighter, or it's going to get sucked further in. Now, it would just go further out and the planet would get cooler if it weren't for the fact of the iron. Okay, now that's the thing we have to consider, is the iron is going to magnetize to the sun, but maybe on certain sides of the sun it magnetizes stronger, so it's throwing our orbit out of, you know, like if we're rotating around the sun, you know, we'll be further out over here and then closer over here, you see. So these are all things that you know, behind the climate change lie. There are facts that are being hidden that nobody's even considering.